She warned me outright, "If you dare to go through with that paternity test, I'll walk away with our child, and you'll be cut out of our lives forever." But I proceeded anyway, determined to uncover the truth. When those results arrived, they hit hard, not mine at all. Then she rang me up, her voice breaking with sobs, pleading for a face-to-face to sort things out. I simply reminded her, "Weren't those your exact words, that I'd never lay eyes on either of you again?" And with that, I ended the call abruptly. Hey everyone tuning in, just before we plunge deeper into this raw account, do yourselves a favor and subscribe to Dark Infidelity Stories, if these intense tales of betrayal and revelation keep you hooked. Smash that like button to show your support, and share this with friends who thrive on stories of resilience amid heartbreak. Thanks a bunch. To paint the full picture for you, let's rewind to how it all kicked off. Tina and I first crossed paths during our college days, both of us barely getting by on cheap instant noodles and whatever shifts we could snag. She dove headfirst into marketing studies, brimming with grand visions of scaling the business world, while I plugged away at engineering, already scouting for a solid position right after graduation. Right from those early moments, I committed fully, heart and soul. She radiated this incredible vitality, full of drive and big aspirations, and I thrived on being her biggest cheerleader through it all. When her folks endured that brutal split shortly after we tossed our caps, I stood by her side without hesitation. I can still recall cradling her during those endless evenings filled with heartache, assisting her in navigating the messy family fallout, and even chauffeuring her to counseling appointments when the weight felt too heavy for her to bear solo. I sidelined my own ambitions, like passing up a promising role that demanded a big move, all to remain nearby and serve as her unwavering foundation. Before long, we tied the knot in an intimate gathering, simple yet profoundly meaningful. I settled into my position as a project engineer in a bustling mid-sized town, clocking extended shifts to carve out a secure path ahead for us. Tina snagged a role at a bustling ad agency, but the demands piled on relentlessly. She navigated constant pressure, burning the midnight oil on campaign proposals, and I transformed our home into her ultimate haven of calm. I'd whip up hearty meals, tackle the household tasks without complaint, and orchestrate sweet little escapes like spontaneous road trips to help her unwind and refresh. Man, when the layoff struck her company last year and she found herself out of work, I didn't hesitate for a second. "No rush, love," I assured her. "Dive into that professional credential you've been eyeing. I'll hold down the fort for both of us." I ramped up my hours, hustled side projects as a freelancer, ensuring she could pursue her passions free from financial stress. We dreamed aloud about growing our family one day, and the thought filled me with genuine excitement. I envisioned us as this unbreakable duo, standing strong no matter what storms came our way. Yet, around 8 months back, subtle changes began creeping in. Tina grew more withdrawn, lashing out over minor issues, constantly glued to her screen, and rolling in late from supposed professional mixers or group sessions tied to her coursework. I'd inquire about her day, hoping to connect, and she'd dismiss me with a curt, "It was okay," or swiftly pivot to another topic. Then came the bombshell about the pregnancy. One quiet night, she pulled me aside, beaming brightly, and shared that she was carrying our child. At first, pure joy washed over me. I wrapped her in a tight embrace, babbling excitedly about potential names and converting our extra space into a cozy nursery haven. But a nagging doubt soon surfaced, refusing to fade. The dates simply didn't align properly. I'd been off on a lengthy business excursion to a secluded location, completely out of reach with no phone signal, precisely during the window when everything must have occurred. Our intimate moments had been sparse leading up to that, thanks to her mounting tensions, and afterward, well, the calculations just fell short by a noticeable margin. I attempted to brush it aside, blaming my overactive imagination, but those suspicions only intensified. She'd been dropping mentions of this colleague named Jesse more frequently, how he'd been such a pillar during her employment search, how they'd meet for casual brews to bounce concepts around. I caught her giggling at incoming messages when she assumed I wasn't paying attention, and one time, a notification flashed briefly, eager for our next meetup. It knotted my stomach into twists. I cherished her deeply, placed my faith in her, or at least strive to. But those warning signs blared too loudly to overlook. Following a restless evening tossing and turning, I resolved to seek resolution. Not to stir up conflict, but to restore some inner calm. So, during a shared meal one evening, I broached the subject carefully, maintaining a level tone. "Tina," I began, placing my utensil aside. "I'm absolutely ecstatic about this little one on the way, but those conception dates, they clash directly with my absence on that trip. I believe a paternity check could ease any lingering concerns, allowing us to embrace this chapter fully as parents." She went rigid, her demeanor morphing from shock to an icy glare. "A paternity test? You're not joking, Annie?" "I do have faith in you," I countered, striving for composure. "Yet the schedule is mismatched by several weeks. This isn't an attack, it's about gaining certainty so we can unite as a strong unit moving ahead." She let out a harsh, mocking chuckle that sliced deep. "Come on, really? If your insecurities run that deep, perhaps that's the root issue here. I've been carrying so much solo while you're constantly away grinding. And now you dare to doubt if this child is yours? All right then. But mark my words, if you pursue that test, that's it for us. I'll vanish with the baby and you'll be erased from our world. I'll ensure you live with that remorse." Her declaration lingered heavily, delivered with such arrogant certainty, as if she'd already cast me as the antagonist in her narrative. I refrained from shouting or imploring. I merely inclined my head, a swirl of bewilderment clouding my thoughts like a thick mist. "If that's your ultimatum, Tina, I've registered it clearly." Deep down, the pain pierced sharply, the manner in which she reframed the situation, positioning me as the distrustful one for craving honesty. But I wouldn't coerce her into anything. That evening, as she retreated angrily to the spare bedroom, I lingered solo in the living area, gazing blankly at the blank space ahead. I'd surrendered countless things for our bond, career chances, personal hours, sheer effort, and now this betrayal loomed. It struck as profoundly unjust, as though I'd merely been a temporary stand-in throughout. The quiet tension dragged on for what felt like an eternity afterward, with her evading my presence, and me grappling internally over the next steps. Ultimately, I discreetly arranged for a non-invasive prenatal DNA kit, delivered straight to our door without fanfare. No heated exchange required. Answers were all I sought. A couple of weeks later, when the findings materialized, validating my deepest instincts, not a match in the slightest. It landed like a brutal strike, yet I held back from exploding. Quietly, while she was elsewhere, I gathered essentials into a duffel and penned a brief message indicating we should discuss parting ways. By that point, she'd been distancing herself further, crashing more frequently at her siblings' home. The sting of deception seared intensely, but I channeled my energy into practical matters. Legal consultations, sorting shared possessions, all handled without dramatics. That's when the true chaos erupted. Tina had ramped up her stays at her sister's, insisting on needing breathing room to reflect on our relationship. But I saw through it. Those test outcomes weighed heavily on me, tucked away in my wallet as a stark, constant prompt. 0% compatibility. It solidified every suspicion. The extended evenings out, the covert communications, the barriers she'd erected emotionally. I wasn't imagining threats. I'd been thoroughly deceived. Still, I opted against an explosive showdown. No raised voices, no flung blame echoing through the halls. I bided my time until she returned one dusk to fetch additional belongings. Striding in with that superior air, as if she controlled the entire deck, she dropped her purse onto the sofa without so much as acknowledging me. "Just here for more outfits. We can chat whenever you're prepared to own up for questioning my loyalty." Positioned in the kitchen entry, I folded my arms, preserving a neutral inflection. "Actually, Tina, this conversation can't wait. The results from the test are in." Her gaze sharpened, that haughty facade fracturing ever so slightly. "You did what?" I explicitly stated, "If you went ahead, that's the end. You'll be shut out from me and this child for good." "I took your warning to heart," I responded, retrieving the creased document and pushing it toward her across the surface. "But the facts were essential. And there they are, it's not mine." She grabbed it hastily, her eyes racing over the details, color draining from her cheeks before hardening into resistance. These kinds of assessments aren't foolproof every time. And okay, perhaps I faltered, but blame lies with you, Annie. You've grown so remote, forever immersed in your job. I was isolated, overlooked. Jesse, he truly understands me. He's dynamic, full of zeal. We bonded during those after-hours sessions at work while you were jetting off on assignments. It wasn't intentional, but your absence paved the way. Jesse, I echoed, the puzzle snapping into focus. The associate she'd referenced offhandedly, the one flaunting a sleek ride and endless anecdotes. So, it's him, the guy from your workplace. She thrust her arms across her chest, lifting her chin defiantly, almost boastfully. Yes, exactly, Jesse. He possesses that fire, that spark you've let dim. You're dependable, no doubt, but utterly predictable. I crave more than mere security. I yearn for a partner who ignites excitement, not just routine comfort. And frankly, if you'd shown more presence, none of this would have unfolded. But instead, you insisted on that ridiculous exam. Now I'm walking. I'll initiate the divorce proceedings, claim the property if necessary, and nurture this child alongside someone who's genuinely committed. Her stinging remarks pierced like daggers, her warped reasoning flipping her infidelity into my shortcoming. She framed me as the culprit for dedicating myself to our stability, for shouldering the load while she wandered astray. It was beyond infuriating, the audacity in her voice, as if I owed her gratitude for this supposed eye-opener. Rage simmered within, yet I quelled it firmly. No desperate quests for justifications. No appeals for reconciliation. If that's your perspective, Tina, then proceed. I'll manage the formalities from my side. She unleashed that scornful laugh once more. Oh, you'll take care of it? Best of luck navigating life solo. You'll soon grasp the magnitude of what you've squandered. I'm leveling up, Annie. Jesse's already discussing cohabitation once the little one arrives. The regret will be all yours. I offered no retort, simply observing as she yanked a valise from the wardrobe and crammed garments inside haphazardly. And don't even entertain notions of battling for visitation or the like, she tossed back while packing. It's not your blood, as you've confirmed with that test of yours. So, true to my word, you'll be invisible to us forever. She exited with a resounding slam, the home reverberating in sudden emptiness. I remained rooted there for ages, the enormity pressing down relentlessly. The disorientation choked me. How had our visions of parenthood devolved into utter ruin? Memories surged unbidden. Like the occasion I astonished her with passes to her favorite band's show, despite dragging from an exhaustive 60-hour stretch, or the winter she battled illness, and I stayed vigilant through the night, preparing broth and administering remedies. I'd forfeited advancements, evenings with buddies, everything to forge a sturdy foundation. And in return, cast aside as if insignificant. Positioned as nothing more than a secondary option while she pursued that thrilling rush with Jesse, it struck me as profoundly unjust, cutting deep in its cruelty. I'd poured everything into our bond, yet she brushed it aside so callously, framing my steadfast devotion as some sort of defect. Over the following weeks, everything blurred into a haze of emotional separation. I brought on a skilled attorney, methodically began disentangling our intertwined money matters. No joint funds remained for her to access freely. I sealed off all lines of contact, her phone line, every social platform, even her email address, not driven by vengeance but purely to safeguard my own sense of calm. I stepped back from our overlapping social groups as well, informing close pals that I required some breathing room. I steered clear of our familiar spots entirely. My career emerged as my steady lifeline during that turbulent stretch. I immersed myself fully in assignments, even embracing that transfer opportunity I'd previously declined, which led to settling into a compact living space on the opposite side of the city. Counseling sessions proved invaluable in sorting through the emotional wreckage, where I openly confronted the fragility she'd exposed in me, the nagging insecurities she'd sown. Am I truly that dull? I'd probe, but gradually the fog of uncertainty lifted, revealing clearer skies. I ramped up my fitness routine at the local gym, revived forgotten passions like exploring rugged trails on foot, and even ventured into light-hearted outings with new people, though nothing too committed just yet. Existence without the constant turmoil she brought felt remarkably unburdened, almost liberating. In the meantime, fate began weaving its subtle threads of retribution, though I never actively pursued any updates. Bits and pieces trickled in from shared acquaintances, despite my best attempts to remain detached. As it unfolded, Jesse revealed himself as far from the heroic figure she'd romanticized. He proved erratic at his core, with tales circulating of him drifting aimlessly from one position to another, a pattern of fleeting romances trailing behind. When their little one made his entrance a few months down the line, a healthy boy from the scattered reports that reached me, Jesse lingered only briefly, just enough to verify his biological tie before vanishing entirely, claiming the responsibilities of parenthood overwhelmed him beyond readiness. He abandoned her completely, stranded in a tight, modest rental that her sibling had assisted in securing. Tina's professional path took a nosedive amid her time off for the newborn. The agency pointed to dips in productivity as the reason for letting her go, but quiet murmurs suggested the workplace tension sparked by her involvement with Jesse played a significant role. Her standing suffered noticeably, with colleagues pulling away. Even those pals who'd initially rallied around her began creating distance once the complete narrative surfaced. She stepped out on you and then had the nerve to issue ultimatums over a simple test. One mate messaged me, "Man, you escaped a nightmare scenario." I refrained from any sense of triumph. I simply acknowledged it inwardly with a quiet affirmation. The irony burned brightly. Her arrogant declarations had circled back to haunt her in the most fitting way. She'd walled herself off, grappling with mounting debts, slowly coming undone piece by piece. Yet I maintained my boundaries, channeling all my focus into my personal ascent. A well-earned advancement at the office, fresh bonds with supportive folks, that sharpened perspective guiding me onward. The sting of injustice still echoed during solitary reflections. But rather than dragging me down, it propelled me ahead with renewed vigor. That's precisely when her outreach efforts began filtering through, tentative at the outset before escalating, as if she couldn't fathom that I'd genuinely progressed without her. It kicked off roughly a month following the child's arrival. By then, I'd locked into a solid groove, elevated to lead engineer, conquering outdoor paths every weekend, and tentatively exploring connections with a colleague who embodied honesty and warmth. Straightforward interactions, devoid of any hidden motives. With Tina's contact locked out, she devised clever workarounds. The initial breach came via a message from an unfamiliar digits. "Annie, this is me. We have to discuss everything that went down. At least for the little one's future, give me a chance to explain." I ignored it outright, erased the trace and carried on with my routine, but her determination didn't wane. A voice message followed suit. "Hi, Tina here. Jesse," he bolted. Declared he couldn't handle the pressure. "Now it's just me and the baby, barely keeping afloat. I admit I hurled some harsh stuff your way, but perhaps we could sit down, figure out a path forward. I long for the stability we shared." Her delivery wavered slightly, a thread of urgency weaving through, yet it carried that familiar skewed rationale, implying I somehow owed her rescue after she demolished our foundation. I played it through once, then swiftly barred that fresh line as well. No flicker of pity arose within me. She'd crafted her circumstances through those vehement warnings and rationalizations, but her persistence knew no bounds. Her sibling reached out 7 days later, her words laced with that poisonous blend of criticism and entreaty. "Annie, Sarah speaking. Tina's in a rough patch right now. Expenses stacking high. No steady income. And the infant's fussy constantly. You're acting so harshly by shutting her out. Sure, she erred, but bonds like family endure. At minimum, have a conversation. She's filled with remorse." "Erred?" I responded evenly. "She betrayed our vows, deceived me outright, and vowed to erase me entirely. Pass along that I'm doing just fine." Sarah let out an exasperated breath. "That's cold-hearted of you. She believed you possessed more compassion. Everyone in her circle echoes that. You at least owe her some resolution." I disconnected without further exchange. "Cold-hearted?" After I'd been the pillar sustaining us both, it reeked of double standards, them rallying defensively now that her supposed better choice imploded. Those acquaintances who'd remained impartial began sending regrets via messages. Got the whole scoop now. Apologies for not catching on earlier. She's falling apart, brother. But Tina intensified her efforts. Yet another ring from a different source. This round, her inflection veered from supplication toward a sharper bite of frustration. Annie, answer this. I know these are reaching you. I'm desperate for assistance. Jesse vanished without a trace. Dumped me in total ruin. This place is chaos. Half the days I scrape by for basic needs like baby food. We exchanged vows once. Doesn't that count for something? Let's link up at our old spot for coffee. I messed up badly. There, I said it. Satisfied. I held back from replying, disregarded the barrage of follow-ups that ensued. Alright, fine, play it like that. But you're essentially deserting a kid who might have been part of your world if you hadn't forced that exam. Then the fury erupted across a series of recorded rants. You act all high and mighty these days, erasing me as if I meant nothing. I've glimpsed your updates through mutuals, out adventuring on hikes, seeing new faces while I endure this hell. You're spineless, Annie. I invested years in us, and this is your gratitude. It laid bare her authentic nature, the conceit from our split evolving into seething resentment once she grasped her influence had evaporated. Her relatives joined the fray. Her mother fired off an electronic note. It's disgraceful how you've abandoned her. Tina's battling deep sadness, cut off from support. Join us for a meal. Hash it out maturely. Pure manipulation from top to bottom, casting me as the obstacle for refusing to yield. I related straight to my legal advisor. Continued forging ahead with my existence. The dynamics had reversed entirely. She clung desperately, scrambling for any foothold. While I emerged with unprecedented clarity, those initial evenings of profound bewilderment had solidified into unshakable determination. I'd once been exposed, doubting my value, but now I soared unbound. The peak unfolded during our shared buddy Mike's celebration for his upcoming arrival, a relaxed outdoor affair in his yard that I nearly bypassed, but Mike urged, "Months have passed, pal. Swing by and join the joy." I arrived alongside my fresh companion Lisa. Understated vibe, purely genuine connection. We shared chuckles over snacks when suddenly Tina materialized. Without an invite. Cradling the infant in a sling, her appearance weary, shadowed eyes, tousled locks, that frantic spark gleaming. Attention shifted, murmurs rippled through the crowd. She zeroed in on me, brushing past the uneasy glances. "Annie," she uttered, her words quivering yet insistent. "Figured you'd show. We must speak alone. Jesse's out permanently. Wrecked my finances in his exit. I'm destitute, isolated, and the little one's under the weather constantly. I acted foolishly, alright? Controlling and wrong, but we can mend this bridge. You always preached about teamwork. How about connecting soon? Sort through it all. I never stopped caring for you." The sheer duplicity reached its zenith, imploring after her vicious parting shots, behaving as if her collapse could be patched with my intervention. Guests fidgeted restlessly. Mike flashed me an understanding glance. I preserved a composed, resolute demeanor, akin to securing a gate she'd forfeited access to long ago. "Tina, your own declaration was crystal clear. If I pursued that test, you'd vanish with the child, ensuring I never crossed your paths again. Recall that? You delivered it with such confidence. So let's honor your decree. This chapter's closed." She fluttered her eyelids, moisture building. "That came from a place of fury. I wasn't serious. Come on, Annie. I regret it deeply. We could rebuild from scratch. You witnessed my hardships. Doesn't that tug at you?" I looked toward Lisa, who gripped my palm reassuringly, then returned my focus to Tina. "What really matters most is this incredible life I've built for myself from the ground up. A brand new position that's challenging and rewarding, paths I've never explored before that fill me with excitement. I'm genuinely happy and at peace. You've faded into just a minor note in my past chapters. Take care of yourself." She stayed frozen in place, her mouth hanging open in disbelief, while I turned smoothly and rejoined the lively crowd around me. The shift in our situation stood out so sharply. There she was, all alone and begging in front of everyone, desperate for attention, whereas I was absolutely thriving, surrounded by friends and supporters who had finally seen through to the honest truth of it all. Not too long afterward, she slipped away from the scene, muttering frustrated words under her breath, but none of it even touched me anymore. After that encounter, no more efforts came from her side. Maybe at last she truly understood and accepted the finality of it. Jumping ahead in time, quite a few months have rolled by since that memorable gathering. Lisa and I have taken that beautiful step into engagement, dreaming up a calm and fulfilling future together, far removed from any kind of turmoil or unnecessary stress. Regarding Tina, bits of news floating through old connections suggest she's barely holding things together with random freelance work here and there, and those once loyal friends of hers are steadily drifting off now that the full extent of her betrayal has made the rounds. Fate took care of balancing the scales on its own, and I didn't have to do a single thing to make it happen. The core lesson from all this has become crystal clear and unshakable. Genuine loyalty represents a rare and valuable treasure, something to be cherished rather than expected as a right. Hey there, amazing listeners, a huge shout out for staying locked in through every twist and turn of this riveting narrative all the way to its powerful close. If these deep dives into themes of heartbreak, personal transformation, and sweet poetic justice light a fire in you, make sure to smash that subscribe button over on Dark Infidelity Stories, so you never miss the next captivating release. Drop a like if this one hit you right in the feels, and help spread the vibe by sharing it far and wide with anyone who might draw strength from these authentic life lessons. How do you feel about Annie's inspiring path to reclaiming his power? Flood the comments with your insights, your own stories that echo this, or the key messages you're walking away with. I'm eager to read and engage with every single one.